service providers being compromised. So we much welcome you to this webinar. As you can see, we would like, for those who registered early, this was a meeting, but we changed it to a webinar, considering that we are going to talk about some sensitive topics. So we decided to protect the privacy of our participants, just in case, someone comes and says, you did not follow the guidelines, or you're using VPN and that sort of thing. So we very much welcome everyone. On that also, we would like to record this meeting. So if you object, you can raise your hand. But the purpose of the recording is for us to be able to fall back to the recording and be able to capture each and every single contribution from the panelists. And of course, as we go into the meeting, we may allow you to speak if you have an interjection to the meeting. So with that, I'm going to currently start the recording. Since I've not seen a raise of hand or comment, so we'll start the recording of the meeting. So once again, I would like to welcome you to this webinar. We have two panelists today, and they're going to speak to us about the state of encryption in Uganda. Mainly, this webinar is a part of a project that was implemented by the Uganda Internet, that is being implemented by the Internet Society Uganda chapter, where we are trying to get into an understanding of encryption by users, what is the current legal framework, and that kind of thing. So we did conduct a survey, an online survey, I think towards the end of last year. And part of this survey, we will be discussing the findings from this survey, presenting them to you. But also, the findings are also supposed to help us start the conversation on encryption. We very much know there's a ban on VPNs, and I don't know what sort of VPNs people are using right now, but we know that, of course, the regulator issued a list of 100 VPNs. So I guess if your VPN has not been blocked and you're in Uganda, then you may count yourself lucky that you're able to, access the social media platforms that have been affected. So with that, we have two panelists, Mr. Emmanuel Chagara, who is the CEO, Milima Technologies, or Milima, sorry about that, Milima Security. We made a mistake on that, so we'll change that. We also have Mr. Joseph Kiwendo. Mr. Joseph Kiwendo is an ICT professional or practitioner. He has experience in cybersecurity, and he was also behind the conducting of the survey. So he'll be providing us the survey findings, and thereafter we will go into a discussion by Emmanuel, and then after we'll open the floor for discussion and reaction to some of the findings, and also to discuss the current situation we are in as a country, and also as those who are practicing, who are focusing on the improvement of the internet security in Uganda. So without so much further ado, I would like to welcome Joseph to take the floor. Joseph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lillian. Good afternoon, everyone. My name introduction has already been done. I'm Joseph Kiwendo. I'm an ICT professional with a keen interest in security, and trained, practiced in this area, and I have various certifications in this field. So we had a survey on the state of encryption in Uganda And let me not waste much time. Lillian, could you allow me share my screen?
I'm trying to do that, but I don't seem to get around that. Maybe what I can do is, has your presentation changed or?
It's the same presentation. It's the same presentation. You can share from your end.
Okay. Let me do that. Let me do that for now. Okay. Yeah, sorry, Joseph, you can continue interacting. Let me, as I get your presentation out. Yes, I see the co-hosting is not allowing. This is a one license, and unless, Joseph, let me make you a host so that you can do the sharing.
Okay.
I think that will work, yes. Yes, Joseph, now you can start the sharing. Let me stop my share from here.
Okay.
So I think we are good to go.
Yep. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Yes. So in 2020, that's last year, the Internet Society Uganda chapter carried out a survey on the state of encryption in Uganda. We all understand that encryption is under threat, and this is one of the key interests the Internet Society is looking at. And we all know that the Internet Society, one of the principles, it's the trustworthiness of the internet. So encryption plays a great role in this. So the survey results for the state of encryption in Uganda 2020 are as follows. The survey was shared to different people in different organization types. And this is the response. The biggest contributor to this survey, most of the respondents came from the private sector. We have from government, academia, media, civil society. We have the farmer, interesting, and we have the personal people who are doing their own stuff. So how are these people, what are these people doing in the various organizations, or what is their professional service? We have respondents from the information technology service, and this contributed the largest number. We have the telecommunication services. These we are glad that they responded, and this form part of our regulators and people who actually do the final implementation in this regard. Given that we all, our communication channels, the data channels are all mostly controlled from the telecom back end. We had the information and communications, we had banking and financial services, construction, health, education, agriculture, and others. So we see our contributors from the various professions. We have with our largest one coming in from information technology. Gender-wise, we had participants from, we had both male, female, and others who participated in this survey, with the biggest contribution coming in from the male sect, who contributed 70.6% of the responses in this survey. Then we have 27.5 from the females. So one of the metrics used in this survey was, one of them was to understand how have the people responding, interacted with the internet, which is very key. And this would form part of the analytics to this report to see if there is a encryption is tagged on your internet age or not, so that the chapter can know and segregate well how to disseminate its awareness. So most of the respondents have 74.5% have used the internet for more than 10 years. That's very great. Then we have 17.6 who have used the internet for 5 to 10 years. So most of the responses gotten in this regard, very few people, the minimum number had used the internet for less than 2 years. So we are glad that the people who responded to this survey, most of them have used the internet for a very good period of time. So going to the next response. Of the communication channels which are used by the various individuals, and what they do on the internet, how they communicate, what are they really specifically doing on the internet. We are seeing the biggest numbers are using communication channels through mobile phone communication. We are seeing emails also taking part of a great chunk. Then we come to social media, online, and online stroke internet shopping. Actually, this took number 3. Mobile communication and emails, they were in the first place. It's very interesting that people are picking up internet shopping in Uganda. It's something interesting. So, and we had people doing banking, internet banking, mobile apps, and other kinds of usages. So, the next question was about if people are concerned about the confidentiality of what they are sending through the different communication channels, if their information is read by any other third parties, or if data is, in case data in its transit is being read by different people, or other peoples are in position to intercept it. So, and here are the results. 84.3% are very much concerned about this. So, and that contributed the largest number. Somehow concerned, that was 7.6. A little concerned, that was 5.9. So when we went to look at this in the gender-wise, amongst the male, most of the male who responded to this survey are very concerned, and the same thing goes to the female responses we got. Interesting. So in a nutshell, looks like most of these internet users, of which we saw who have used the internet for 10 plus years, are very concerned about their privacy on the internet. So the other parameter was, do you agree if the internet, the information you're sharing on the internet and the other related platforms, such as call data, remain confidential to you and the recipient without being accessed by any other third party? 29.4% disagree, which contributes the largest number. 27.5% strongly disagree. 25.5% agree, and 17.6%, the lowest number here, they strongly agree. We looked at this profession-wise, and we looked at this profession-wise, and we are having from the information technology sector. Let me just do. From the information technology sector, most of the responses, people were disagreeing. We're strongly disagreeing, following by disagreeing. Then we had the minimum number for people who strongly agree. Let me look at the people who agreed. We can see the sector with the largest number of people responses that agreed is our friends from the telecom sector. The highest number says they agree to this. Information and communication services, they strongly agree. So the banking, they are in the midst of agreeing and not agreeing. So let's proceed to the next parameter. Do you feel free to express yourself online without the fear of being traced? 86.3%, they don't feel free to express themselves. And 13.7% are the ones who feel free to express themselves. When we go gender-wise, the males, both genders, people don't feel free to express themselves online. They have that phobia of being traced. Interesting. So let's proceed to the next parameter. So why do people fear to be expressed, or why are they free to express themselves online? These are some of the responses we got. Government trackings or monitoring, interception of data via communication channels, increased hacking, then gender-based cyberbullying, especially for females. So these are some of the contributing factors to the phobia of people not expressing themselves online freely. We proceeded to ask our respondents if they can tell us what they understand about encryption, and amongst other responses, the key ones were people understand encryption as encoding and decoding of information. Some understand it as confidentiality, others understand it as security, and others understand it as data conversion. We proceeded to ask, do you consider encryption before selecting a communication channel stroke platform? 62.7% said yes, and 37.3% said no. When you look at this internet age-wise, yeah, amongst both those who said yes and those who said no, those who consider encryption and those who don't, most of them have used the internet for more than 10 years. Explanations about the responses, whether they consider encryption before selecting a communication channel or not. The responses are as follows: avoid man-in-the-middle attacks, privacy is important. Others said no, no, no. They don't know about encryption, so they don't consider it when they are choosing a communication platform. So we proceeded with another question, which was, are you in position to tell whether the data you're sending or receiving via different communication channels or platforms is encrypted or not? 64.7% said no, and 35.3% said yes. So the biggest number of the people who participated in this survey cannot tell whether the data is encrypted or not. So when you look at this profession-wise, in the telecommunication service, most of the people can tell. From the others, education, no one could tell. Construction, no one. Agriculture, no one. Banking, the most responses were no. The same to information technology and information and communications. Explanation to this, why people are not in position to tell whether the data they are sending or receiving via the different communication platforms is encrypted or not. The explanations were platforms like WhatsApp and Google display a message. Some of the people are technically trained in encryption, so they can tell whether the data is encrypted or not. And these are, for example, our friends from the telecommunication services. Others only rely on the platform owner to tell. Then we have others who can't completely tell whether it's encrypted or not. Are you aware of any legal and regulatory frameworks that protect anonymity for internet users in Uganda? 88.2% say they are not aware of any. 11.8% say they are aware. Organization-wise, the responses from the farmer, no. Private sector, no. Contributed media, no. We had a government, that's where we have a yes, which is more than the no. So it's surprising, even our friends in who responded from the media are not aware of any frameworks. Not any of them who was aware of any frameworks that protect the internet users in Uganda. So we went ahead to ask amongst the responses, these people who were aware of any frameworks, and this is interesting. The frameworks we had is the Uganda Data Protection and Privacy Act of 2019, then the Computer Misuse Act 2011, then a framework which is UCC, and a framework which is MTN. Interesting. So in a nutshell, those are the survey results from the state of encryption from Uganda. So, and that concludes the results presentation, unless if you have any inquiries. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph, for the results. They are kind of interesting, but what I see is they show a lack of awareness about what encryption is. And on the slide that is still on the screen is when someone talks about the last, I'll pick from the last slide about legal frameworks, and where people are talking about MTN and UCC, it's a clear kind of, you know, state that people actually do not know whether encryption is allowed and whether it is not allowed in Uganda. And also, I think when we went to, there was a slide that you showed, which I can't, let me try to pick on the slide about, are you able to tell whether your data, the data you're sending or receiving via different communication channels or platforms is encrypted or not? It's kind of interesting that respondents from, if you could just go to that slide, respondents from that, on this one, you know, it's kind of interesting to see that the communications, information technology, you know, they have some level of awareness. We don't know what is in other, but again, that the findings are interesting. So I would like to welcome Mr. Chagara, who is our main discussant for this webinar, to share with us his views on these findings, and finally maybe provide us a clear message whether encryption, is how it is being practiced in the country, what are his experiences, considering he's coming from a cybersecurity firm. And then after that, we'll go into a Q&A to also get more, responses from the different participants. So Emmanuel, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Joseph. And I want to congratulate Internet Society for this effort towards creating awareness around encryption, and also, of course, associated with the statistics. This is very useful statistics that we can always rely on for advisory, for strategic designs, and things of that nature. I'm Emmanuel Chagara. For those who may not know, I'm from Milima Security. When Lillian was introducing, she sounded like Milima Technologies is a wrong name. Our company is registered as Milima Technologies, but we trade as Milima Security. So yeah, no, you didn't get it wrong, Lillian. So I am also a member of NISAG, which is the National Information Security Advisory Group. We advise government on critical infrastructure around information security. So I'm very happy that I can get to share with you a few insights. Permit me to turn off my video. Everyone has been playing around with the internet a lot, so let's make sure that we have all the bandwidth we can get.
It is okay.
My people in government are overstressing us. Yes. So, like I said, I want to congratulate you guys. This is a very good effort. Milima has been a key player in cybersecurity, and particularly we are very interested in data outside nature. Uganda as a whole and the cybersecurity sector with itself has been very much in the dark when it comes to statistics. As a matter of fact, whenever you're looking out for statistics around cybersecurity, data privacy, encryption, and things of that nature in Uganda, you will always struggle a lot to come across such information. And that is why ever since 2017, we have been very active in research. And so when I see Internet Society taking on this bold step, it gives me a lot of joy, because with this, we can now get to have more information to rely on to inform us at individual levels, at organizational levels, at government levels, and all of that. So yeah, thank you very much, and I congratulate you. Now, from this study, I got to, when I was listening to Joseph, there are a couple of things that came to mind. Of course, the biggest being the gender gap. We shouldn't ignore the fact that if we're having such a low response from the females, it also indicates how many of them are actually using these tools for their day-to-day work, which in itself causes us to question how much work we are doing to bridge that gender gap when it comes to use of ICTs. So yes, that is something that we really need to take into consideration. ISOC has been a big player in bridging this gap. Of course, by starting with our own president being female, it has been a very strong effort to just get more women participating in ICTs and also getting it involved, I mean, with the various sectors that we have in the country. But still, this response already helps us to know that there is still a long way to go in terms of our work. And I want to encourage us all, many of you who have joined this call, Uganda is right now in a very heated environment. Just sparing time to join this call alone shows how much you value this webinar. And so with that in mind, I encourage you, let us do everything possible within our capacities to get ladies involved in ICTs for day-to-day stuff. You see, it is very unfortunate that some people still think that ICT is a sector. I have always told people that that is something that we should start moving away from. If we're moving to a digital economy, then we cannot keep calling ICT a sector. ICT cannot be a sector when it is integrated in health, when it's integrated in transport, in agriculture, and all of these other significant sectors that you know of. So let's embrace ICT as an enabler for our day-to-day operation. And with that in mind, we should see how to get our ladies involved. 27% response showed that there was a big gap there. Also, from my observation, I see that there is generally a big integration of ICT into our day-to-day work. For us to see that about 92% of the respondents use social media, 98% of the respondents are using mobile phones, 94% use internet for their internet shopping. It already shows us that as a country, we are progressing in the right direction when it comes to embracing ICT for our day-to-day work. And this is a very big step that we should all be very proud of. There was still a very low percentage I saw in terms of banking and internet banking. And I can also imagine the reasons, which is also covered in this study. Questions around encryption and privacy are very big and must be answered when we want to promote internet banking and generally online banking. Yeah? That is why only 2% of the response are actually using internet banking and online banking. So that was an observation that I saw, which clearly, the more that we can create awareness around issues of encryption, around issues of privacy and data privacy laws, that will be a big step for us in helping the population embrace all of these other innovations like online banking. So when it came down to how people are concerned about their privacy, 84% of the respondents are concerned, and that is it's understandable from two angles. One, we're having more people using. The more people use, the more people that we have who are using technology, the more people we'll have who are questioning certain things. You know, every time I talk about encryption, I remember back in the days in the 2000s and the late 90s, whenever we used computers and the internet, it was a privilege. And I mean, when you're privileged, you're not going to go around asking questions about how safe am I. First of all, you accessing your email alone, you should be proud of it. I remember when I was in high school, I did have an email address. So my neighbor had an email address, Yahoo, and one day he printed out his email. He had received an email, I think, from his mother. He was a Kenyan. So he printed out the email and he brought it to me. I've never forgotten. His name is Nalwoga. If anyone knows him, it will be a very interesting thing. So Kiwendo printed his email and came and showed me, hey, look here, the internet knows my name because Yahoo had indicated that, hello, Kiwendo. Then it goes ahead to show the other things. So he was showing me how the internet knows his name, and man, it was a big deal. Of course, for me who didn't have an email address, I was like, the internet doesn't know me and all that stuff. Right now, we have moved to a stage where we are questioning, why does the internet know me? You see how things have flipped. How much does it know about me? Why does it know all that much about me? So we are moved away from a point of thinking it is a privilege to use internet and all of these various tools to a point where we are questioning our privacy, we are questioning our rights, we're questioning the rights of the people who are collecting our data. And this is very critical. It is very significant as growth, and it's also very critical around innovations. We then get to think very carefully about how to innovate when we're talking about communications, transmissions, and any form of file sharing. So yes, I see that as a very big thing for us. 84% of participants being very concerned about their privacy, and that is quite a big thing. Another area of concern is the freedom of expression. And this is something that I also captured. We cannot ignore the fact that as a country, we have the right to expression, and that should never be taken away from us. But if we have reached a point where over 86% of the respondents are very concerned and they feel they could be followed, with even the top of that list being government tracking, then it brings a lot of concern. We cannot be afraid to talk about the recent events with the politics and all the heated environment, the anxiety. All of these issues have even increased that fear within the population. So people are now having to talk very carefully. People are having to express themselves in a very selected way. All of these do not contribute to democracy. They do not contribute to our freedom as citizens to communicate and express ourselves. So this survey shows that 86% of the respondents were very concerned and they don't feel free to speak openly. Members, in this webinar, I want to encourage you to feel free to speak openly. Lillian will not come after you. But yes, this is an area that we must think of. It's a very fundamental area. And hopefully we can have these conversations and, well, be progressive with it at the government level. Yeah. So when we come down to encryption, we are seeing that there is actually a number of people who understand what encryption is, and that is a good thing. 62% know what encryption is. Some of them think of it as data conversion. That's a very, very broad and vague way of thinking, but still, it is encryption. Encryption basically means manipulation of information so that it is hidden away from plain sight and not so that the unintended users do not get access to it. So 62% are not aware of it, while 37% are, 62% are aware and they know what encryption is, and they also think of it when they are selecting their platforms, whereas 37 don't. Now, this also brings us back to the question of awareness. How much effort are we putting to help the other percentage come up to speed when it comes to issues of encryption and the choice of communication channels? From the time WhatsApp released its latest policies, that was, I think, about late last week, there has been a lot of talk around WhatsApp's privacy policies vis-a-vis other chat platforms. This is where Signal became popular. Telegram is now very popular. Elon Musk tweeted one tweet, use Signal, and the whole world has gone upside down. So today when I was looking at my Telegram account, I saw a message coming from Telegram saying that they have, within the last 72 hours, they have had a 25 million growth in usage. Well, my thought is I think all those 25 million, or if not 90% of them, are coming from Uganda. We have our own concerns around privacy. We have our own concerns about government tracking, but at the same time, with WhatsApp's policies coming in and all this is where Telegram and all these other channels have become popular from. But then the question is, even whether they are being popular, are they any more secure? Okay, do people actually know which one is more secure than the other? Is that something that people are aware of, or we're just going with the bandwagon? If Chagara, who is in cybersecurity, says use Signal, then everyone goes to Signal. But even when you went to Signal, you did not read the privacy policies. Then tomorrow we say, don't use Signal. Now let's go to Wire. There is another one called Wire. People don't even know about it. Yet it's also highly encrypted. So we cross over to Wire. Or another time, no, let's go back to WhatsApp. So why I'm saying this is that as a population, we must take the effort to read. We must take the effort. If you're choosing to use these tools, do not just use it for the sake, or do not just go with the bandwagon. Take your time and understand the policies for yourself. How does it affect you? How important is it to you? When your information is shared with third party, what does that mean to you? Now, for example, I have some people who have told me, as a cybersecurity expert, why are you still using Facebook? People say that it shows it can help in social engineering and create an attack for you. And that is true. But then I have often told them that whatever information I put out there, it can always be used against me and I will not care. In other words, there is no point in which you will harvest my social media information and use it against me or social engineering or something like that. So you have to know that when I'm going to take this risk, this is what I'm ready for, this is what I'm aware of, and this is what the repercussion could be. All of this comes back to user awareness. So I hope that it's something that we can consider as we use these tools. I was very impressed to see that about 35% of the respondents, are you in a position to tell whether the data is sending or receiving? 35% of the respondents were able to tell that their information is encrypted or not. This is actually quite a big number, because even myself, I'm not able to tell in plain sight. I have to use a packet analysis tool. So I don't know if this was based on usage of these extra tools like packet analysis, or they can just see a message and they know this one is encrypted or not. But yes, so we had about 64% of the respondents who are not able to tell, and this is understandable. But then, can we now go back to the reading of policies? At least if you don't know how to use a packet analysis tool to see if your packets are encrypted or not, the best you can do is to read the policy that is given to you by your service provider, by WhatsApp, by Signal, by all of these vendors. If it tells you that you have an end-to-end encryption, then you do. At least for me, that is how I operate with it. Because if I don't, then I am going to sue you according to the GDPR, according to the Data Privacy Act. It is all there. So when you state one thing and you do the other, as a common person, that is the best you can do for the users. Tell them if it's encrypted or not. Okay. But at an advanced level, for some of you who would want to go deep and use these tools, there are several packet analysis tools that you can use to tell if your information is encrypted or not. For example, if you're sending packets across your router, you can check it out from there. And the responses indicate that platforms like WhatsApp and Google always display that their information is encrypted, and then the rest are trained. So And then the last issue that I would want to talk about is on the issue of legal frameworks. Legal frameworks are still largely not known in Uganda. And when it comes down to your rights as a user of technology, if, for example, you're interacting with a platform of Milima, what are your rights when we tell you that we're going to harvest your information? At the beginning of this webinar, Lillian asked if members were okay with the video, with the recording, and there was no one who objected to it. But what in actual sense she was doing is that she was trying to give you the power to use your rights as a member of this webinar. If you have any objection to being recorded, then you would object to that, and you have your right actually to do that. But then how many of us actually know that we have this right? Many people don't. When MTN is collecting your information, we always think that it's a privilege. When NIRA has collected all that information about you, it is not a privilege. It is your right to walk to NIRA and ask how much information they have about you. But many times we actually are not aware of this. And that is why I could see that about 88% of the respondents are not aware of any existing laws around data privacy. This is quite a big problem. I don't know if there are any members here from NITA, but this is something that they could consider picking up. NITA is, I think as of now, they're still the ones mandated with issues around privacy. Only 11% are informed about the privacy laws. Just a quick one for those who are not aware. Uganda enacted a Data Privacy and Protection Act in 2019. Those are now 2 years. So for us not to be aware of it up to now, it is quite a big issue. And besides that, there are also other laws around security, like the Computer Misuse Act of 2011, the Electronic Signatures Act, and the Electronic Transaction Act. All of these are very important laws that we have to be aware of as you use these tools. They can be used against you, or you can also use it for your own good. If someone is manipulating you online, cyber stalking you, blackmailing you, using certain private information, you have the right to protect yourself using these laws. But for as long as we are not aware of it, then you have no power. Knowledge is power. So yes, like Lillian mentioned, someone says there's a law framework from MTN. I really didn't get that. But UCC has a framework. I don't know if you guys are aware, but UCC has a framework, and it is designed to help the telco providers and all those who subscribe to UCC in terms of how they use public data. So there is a framework by UCC, and it was also passed in 2019, and it is basically designed for regulation in harvesting of information, in manipulating this information, in processing the information, storage of the information, all of this. So that is also something to note. So otherwise, this is generally my observation. I think, first of all, this was a very good study that was conducted. And again, I applaud Internet Society for this. I hope all the members who are on this call can take this information into very good use at your organizational level. How can you use this data to inform your strategic development? And also, how can you use it to better yourself as an individual? How do you improve on your knowledge of privacy, encryption, and the associated laws? So thank you very much. I want to invite Lillian back to just moderate the rest of the discussion. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Emmanuel, for your views on the findings. Like initially shared at the beginning of the webinar, is that the findings, well, they are not that conclusive, and we wanted to get more contributions from people who have attended this webinar. And just before we go into that, I think we have some responses in the chat room, and I'll read that, and we also have a question in the Q&A. So here from Komaket Job, he says that the whole issue is about privacy online. The whole encryption thing will continue to remain a discussion as long as the big tech firms are interested in making money from our data. So again, I think that goes to the issue of Facebook announcing to us that they're integrating all our information and, into WhatsApp and all that. Hence the push for Signal, as you've shared. Martin Lubwama says just accessing was exciting. I'm not so sure what he means by that, but I think accessing the webinar was exciting considering the current situation we are in, where several users are reporting disruptions in the internet. Of course, it goes on to say exciting enough to be mind-boggling. So I guess really in this day and era where we still have to worry, am I going to access this platform, is something that we need to think about, especially when we are looking at how safe our data is in terms of encryption and also in terms of the person who is having it. Emmanuel Oluku says, I think it's important to have close partnerships with main-led organizations to ensure female participation in internet-related discussions. So again, I encourage members, if you want to contribute to the conversation, you can raise your hand and perhaps we can activate the microphone for you to contribute. But if you're having issues with your internet, you can type in your question or your comment into the chat, in the chat room, and then we'll be able to pick that. On the Q&A, we had Jesse Kalenge has a question, and I'll read. He says, what does Uganda's legal framework on encryption state? Just like Lillian already stated, it's acceptable by law in Uganda to encrypt data on communication platforms such as websites and applications that are developed by software engineers locally. And this also relates to the usage of VPNs. So from my side, again, Emmanuel, you perhaps respond to this as well. What I know is there are no legal requirements in Uganda that govern use of encryption, and besides, there are no circumstances under which a company in Uganda is required to use encryption, but probably they do use it. There are no restrictions to encryption in the legal aspect of it. So again, we know that private companies can use encryption without restrictions because really there's no law that prohibits, encryption. For instance, we see the end-to-end encryption with WhatsApp and all that. So there's really no law that exempts an organization in using encryption. However, with the current trends, and this is not something of yesterday, we see that there's always an increasing, increasing push from law enforcement or state actors to ban use of encryption services, especially now we see with the blockage that we are having with WhatsApp, with the blockage that we saw in 2016, with the social media platforms. So it is a worrying state. And we've also seen that there have been cases where people have been pushed into a wall to access, where ISPs are pushed into a wall to release information on someone. So if that information is encrypted, what law provides for, government or law enforcement to have these, to have them release data on a user if it is encrypted? So these are some of the issues, whereas there is no law, but there have been lots and lots of incidences where we've seen violations of users' online rights. And yet we know that the telecom companies will tell you your communications are encrypted, they are safe with us. So this is kind of the challenge that we are seeing. So maybe the conversation should also go should we have a proper designated law on encryption in Uganda? Because the data protection law doesn't really go into that much detail to specify what encryption is. Again, I'm not so sure whether they are any people from the policy, from the regulators, NITA, who are in charge of this. We sent an invitation, but I guess they were too busy handling some of the things we are facing now. So I'll leave that to Emmanuel, maybe to respond, and to anyone on the call to have a say. And maybe Joseph, you could also highlight some of the responses that we got about what encryption entails, or maybe to walk us through, when we say encryption, what is it exactly? Because privacy and encryption, they may sound the same, but they may sound different to another, and they may have different meanings to a different person.
Maybe let me respond first on the on any existing laws around encryption. So, as you mentioned, there is no clearly defined guidelines on particularly encryption, but the the Data Privacy and Protection Act under Section 4 mandates every data controller to put in place enough appropriate, reasonable measures to protect information against loss, against damage, and against unauthorized access. So this statement alone defines the responsibility of the data controller, data collector, or a data processor when it comes to issues of data protection. And within those reasonable measures, that is where encryption can be inserted. For example, you as a user, you have the right to sue an organization if for any reason it is clear that they did not protect your information enough from eavesdropping or from any form of attack. For example, if your banking details are exposed and there is no evidence that good measures were applied in protecting your PIN and your account details and your banking details, your balance statements, using reasonable encryption methods. If there is no evidence that this was done, then you as a user, you have the right to sue the bank for not applying enough measures. So in other words, it's actually encouraging that do not put any information online if there is not enough security, including encryption. So to the brighter side, encryption is an encouraged and strongly expected measure. The only challenge comes in now from governance side. How are they going to handle us now that we are all on VPN? I'm one of them, so I have to be sincere about that. Everyone is on VPN. So how are they going to handle for the sake of regulation and all these other governance needs? That is another question. And for this, it is actually not clearly defined in the law. However, the law also says, still in the Privacy Act, that the government has the right to demand information from existing data controllers, that information that pertains to a particular person, say for national security issues. So that is where you find that there is a gray area. So it is not prohibiting someone from doing things that avert evidence collection, because VPN directly averts evidence collection and tracking and any form of UCC works that they would want to do. So with that, you find that they will probably now need to think of a law around that, but there's actually no law right now that bars you from using VPN or any form of privacy tools for yourself. There's no law against that. I think that is that. The second, you were asking also about encryption. What is encryption? Encryption in itself is a measure is a measure of protecting information from unauthorized users by use of by manipulating the data into unreadable form, and then when it reaches the rightful recipient, then it is then converted back into readable form using certain keys. So here we look at things like private keys and public keys and the other encryption algorithms. Joseph can speak more about this.
Thanks, Emmanuel. While you still have the microphone, there's a question in Q&A. Sounds a bit technical for me to even read it out. So perhaps you could respond to Ndiwalana Joseph Rodney about the findings he did, the quick survey testing he did in the bank institutions. Is it
in order for a banking organization to run Apache server that is outdated? Is that the question?
There's that one, but then there's also another one in Q&A where he says he did black box penetration testing on 5 major big banks in Uganda, and he found a lot of what is OWASP, top 10 vulnerabilities. So his question now is, how does he dispense these findings to the banks?
Well, Joseph, this is very good, and all banking institutions and all institutions per se have a channel for allowing of confidential disclosure of such findings. It would be very sad for me to find an organization attacking you or planning to sue you when you disclose to them this evidence, for as long as you did not disclose it to the media or you went online and wrote in a blog before going to them. So when you come across, when you do a black box testing and you discover critical evidence about an existing vulnerability in an institution, the first thing to do is to approach the institution and speak to the risk department. So in this case, if you're talking about a bank, all banks have risk departments. So you can talk to the head of risk, and from there you disclose the risk. Of course, you did a good job, and that means you also have to be paid something, and you have the right to negotiate a payment. Bug bounty hunting, black box testing, all of these are things that are very well rewarded and richly rewarded globally. Very many institutions, the likes of Google and Facebook, are always rewarding. Recently, there was a hacker who disclosed a very critical vulnerability in Google Drive, and so he went and he was paid, I think, about $300,000 US. So yes, these things you will always get paid. I encourage you to go to the risk department and find the head of risk, and then you can disclose to them. Whenever you go to the head of security, in most cases, you'll probably be caught with fire because security guys and IT guys, they're always on the defense. So before you even disclose the issue to them, they'll probably be planning to backfire on you. So go to the head of risk and you disclose to them.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel, for that response. Joseph, I don't know if you have something else to add, but we have a hand from Komakech Job. Komakech will give you 2 minutes to speak after Joseph. So we will allow you to speak after Joseph.
Thank you, Lillian. Actually, I just wanted to find out from Emma. He's part of from the perspective of being a member of the National Information Security Advisory Group. I wanted to have his comment on from the encryption and privacy perspective on 2 aspects. One, the rate at which his comment on the rate at which different governments demand access to encrypted data, with the recent one being from our neighbors in Kenya, where they want to access data on two iPhones. Then secondly, there have been various online speculations of how different, I've seen it in Uganda, people are choosing one telecom group. Of course, it's a speculation that it allows SIM swapping, and people, as a certain sector of people can break the one of the multi-factor authentication mechanisms. That's the SMS-based authentication to access accounts, that's social media, etc., of their interests. So Emma, I would like you to comment on that. Thank
you. Thank you very much, Joseph. So the first issue is the issue of big tech versus governments. And there is nothing to hide. We can all see that it is a growing challenge for governments across the world. There is a sitting government who has been kicked out of a certain platform. Donald Trump was kicked out of Twitter. I mean, these all pose questions. Who is bigger here? Is it the government or the big tech? They themselves are presenting the identity of being the big brothers across the world. They are promoting their own version of democracy, which they know how. And whereas I have no problem with what they're doing, the question is, how do they execute it vis-a-vis governance? And now with Kenya, they are something that is critical. The same issue happened with the FBI. The FBI, there was a shooting sometime in I think it was 2013 or 2014, where some guy sprayed bullets on people who were at a party. But while he was running away, his iPhone fell. This was good evidence. So the FBI went with this to Apple, and Apple refused to give them a backdoor. They actually sued Apple, but still they did not. The only reason why they dropped the case is later on their NSA team were able to hack the phone. So which leaves us now that situation alone, if they were able to deny the US government access, how much more will they deny the Kenyan government or the Ugandan government? Which leaves us with only one thing: we are on our own, and we should not expect the big tech to come and support you in your governance. In fact, they might present themselves as a risk to good governance across various governments. For example, if there is a possibility of a terrorist threat and you have sufficient evidence, but it's locked up in an iPhone, they are not going to help you with that. And yes, we have had these discussions back and forth, but it only brings us back to one thing: we should not rely on the big tech to be partners for governance. It's not going to happen, and they've already presented that kind of personality. When it comes to, for example, right now, social media is shut down in Uganda. For us, we thought that it was shut down because of elections, but the president yesterday mentioned that no, it is actually shut down because those people thought they are bad. So Museveni wants to show them who is badder. Now you can see what we're getting ourselves into. The question is, will the social media be opened after elections? That's a discussion that we shall wait to have. But these are all things that are now emerging as these companies grow bigger than very many governments, even in terms of revenue. It becomes a big problem for the population and for governance. And that is something that really we have to just wait and see how it goes. On the second issue, when it came to, for example, I want to refer to a recent attack on MTN and Pegasus. This is public information. The courts passed. They found one of the culprits is an MTN staff. Another one was Pegasus, and both of them, of course, we call them insider threats. So they are using their inside information to abate attacks on systems. And so your question is, if it is true that these institutions are not applying enough measures to encrypt their data against two-factor authentication, and they are subsequently exposing the users. What then does that mean for both them and also the users? It takes us back to the privacy law that I talked about. At an individual level, you have the right to question MTN on how much information they're using about you. And I want to particularly read, because I have the act. I'm going to read the responsibility. You as a data subject, what is your right? Okay. I'm not seeing that section. But you have the right to go and ask MTN to present all information they have about you, to present how they are protecting this information, to present which third parties have seen this information, and they only have 14 days to respond to you. Failure for them to respond amounts to a penalty of 2% of their annual revenue. And this is awarded to you, the victim. So some of you guys could actually be rich from this law, but people are still not using it. But clearly, if there is sufficient evidence that an institution is not applying enough measures to protect the users, then you have the right to sue. But before you sue, you have the right to request for all the sufficient information, and you only give them 14 days to do that. I want to encourage you guys to go ahead and look out for these laws. They're available on the NITA website. You can download the the Data Privacy and Protection Act of 2019. It is very good for you to know these laws. But yes, you have the right to ask if there is any information that you feel is not being well protected.
Yes, thank you, Emmanuel. I'm not so sure. I guess the person who had their hands up has left the meeting. Probably they've been caught up with in the internet runs. So I guess there are really no more questions. But if anyone in here still has a question or something that is not clear or something they would like to share, we have about 7 minutes. We started a bit late, but yeah, we have up to 7 minutes to the end of the call. We welcome you to share something. If you have, you can raise your hand if you want to say something. I guess there doesn't seem to be anyone wishing to talk. I guess people were here to listen and learn more about what encryption is and what's the state it is in Uganda. So I guess unless Joseph or Emmanuel have something else to add, we would end the meeting. So Emmanuel, perhaps you could have your final words on this topic and what the future holds for us, considering the times we are in. And also perhaps Joseph will let us know what next after this webinar and how these survey findings can be accessed by the wider public. So Emmanuel first and then Joseph first, and then we shall end the meeting.
All right. Thank you very much, Lillian. And I want to thank all of the panelists, Joseph, not all of, I thank Joseph as a panelist, and also all of you participants who spared time to join us on this. I want to hope that you have found valuable information that you can use. As a nation, from this report, we see that there is still a very big gap in terms of security awareness, encryption awareness, knowledge on privacy, and these are all very critical aspects when it comes to good usage of technologies. Something that I did not mention is that Milima Security runs a security training academy, which is called Milima Cyber Academy. And one of the key things that we also do is to train professionals in line with cybersecurity and digital forensics. I think this would be a very good avenue for some of you who are looking to grow your skills around these areas of encryption, of data privacy, of hacking, of digital forensics. So if you are that kind of person, I'm just going to put my email in the chat. You can always write to me, and then we can pick up that discussion. Otherwise, I want to thank you all, and I congratulate Internet Society for this very wonderful report. I don't know if there are any media members who are present. This could be something that we can pick up and talk more about it on the various media channels that we have. But yes, we need to know more about this. The people need to know about it. And we need to start talking about privacy and the associated laws. Thank you, and I wish you a good day. And please, tomorrow, I encourage you all, let's go and vote. Your one vote is very important, very, very important. Go out there and vote. Do not imagine that it's only one vote. It is what will make the difference. So do not fear anything. There is security. Go out and vote. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for the encouragement, and also for letting us know what Milima Technologies or Milima Security Uganda does. Joseph, any final remarks from you in regard to when and how we can access this report? So Joseph, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Emma, for such a wonderful presentation. We are packaging the survey results, and we shall have the results available on the ISOC website, isoc.ug. Also, the participants, I will encourage you to join ISOC to get to know about some of these aspects, which are very important to you. Actually, it's like part of your rights. Aspects like encryption, privacy, are part of your life. Like what Emma said, some of you would be rich. Some of you just give away data, you don't understand, you just, you don't take an initiative to know how this data is going to be used. That's why we found ourselves in two scenarios where you buy a chapati and it's wrapped in medical data, which was a very personal identifiable information. So I encourage the members here to join also the Internet Society. The Internet Society advocates for encryption, and it has some technical courses regarding the same. So it will be a pleasure for you to join to understand what is meant for your privacy, what is meant for data protection, and how you can be safe and you continue to start communicating freely online. So Internet Society will be going ahead with the various projects, and you'll be one of our top priorities regarding the encryption out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joseph. I'll turn on my video for purposes of those who joined late. So once again, we thank everyone who has created time to attend this webinar amidst all that we're going through. On a personal level, I've not been able to chat, to tweet or use any of the social media platforms because my internet is not working. So I'm using mobile internet, and the VPN that I have is not working as well. So I really been caught up on this. But again, we would like to thank so much the Internet Society for the support towards this project that we received to be able to do this small survey on the state of encryption. And we also would like to, of course, thank the Internet Society for enabling us to stream live on the different platform that you see in the one of the participants here. We have is ISOC Live that allows streaming to a wider audience. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending. And like Joseph has said, the report is still being packaged into something that is more readable and refreshing to the mind to read. So I guess this will be shared in the coming hours or days. So like for those who are in Uganda, Emmanuel has encouraged us to go and vote. Let's go vote wisely. Let's not be intimidated into expressing ourselves. Get that VPN. If you're able to get like 5 of them, let's do that and be able to go and express our voices and our freedoms. So I thank you everyone for attending this meeting. Thank you. Bye everyone.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Bye, Joseph.